Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is the disappearance day of Ramacandra Kaviraja and also Gopal Bhatt Goswami. So just to make double sure. Yeah, good. So we'll remember these two great souls and take the opportunity of getting their kind blessings. We celebrate the appearance days of the Lord and the devotees. And we also celebrate the disappearance days, especially of the devotees. Why? Because the appearance days, they've come to give us knowledge of Krishna. And the disappearance day is a little unusual to celebrate, but it's the reason is because they are returning back to the spiritual world. And that is a cause for celebration. Of course, it means we've lost them in one sense. Of course, the instructions are always there. Like Prabhupada said, I will never die. I will be there in my books, he says. So we accept that. So let's have a look at the life and times of Ramacandra Kaviraja. His father was Chiranjeev Sena. His mother's name was Sunanda. They lived in the village of Shrikant, and they had another wonderful son called Govinda. So there's two, Ramachandra and Govinda. Chiranjeev Sen was a Vedya, a doctor, and Mahabhagat as well, topmost devotee of the Lord. The devotees of Shrikant, headed by Narahari Sarkar Thakur, all had great affection and respect for Chiranjeev. Mukundas, Narahari, and Raghunanda all lived in Shikanda. Ramacandra Kaviraj was especially enthusiastic, earnest, persevering, energetic, intelligent, and beautiful. His maternal grandfather was Sri Damodar Kaviraj, who was famous as a great poet and was a worshipper of Krishna's energy, Shakti, so that's Durga Mata, and was initiated into this cult. After the passing away of their father, Chiranjeev, Sri Ramachandra and Sri Govind went to live at the place of their grandfather in Kumaranagar. And they too gradually became infected with this anti-devotional philosophy, Shaktism. Because the mood of worship of Shakti is that of more of a materialistic devotee. So where we do something in return for something. Even though their father had been a great Mahabhagat devotee and personal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this shows the power of association. We may have wonderful past, wonderful parents even, but if our association is not right, we may get misled. And that can be pretty devastating. Ramacandra Sen became a doctor, and gradually he became famous as a highly learned poet as well. Ramachandra was very handsome, intelligent, perseverant, and he was married to Rattanala. After his marriage, Ramachandra was carried in a palanquin with his new bride to their home. So as the procession passed Srinivas Acharya's house at Jajigram, he saw the Acharya seated on the veranda of his house, discussing Krishna Katha with some of his disciples. So simply by Ramachandra seeing the Acharya, he felt a strange new emotion in his heart. It was as though he was seeing a very dear friend after a long time of separation. And similarly, Srinivas, who is Srinivas? Srinivas is a great devotee of the Lord. Him, Narottam Das, Thakur, and Shyamananda were great friends. They were sent by Jiva Goswami with the books of the Goswamis to go to Bengal and preach this Hare Krishna. So anyway, Srinivas, upon seeing Ramachandra seated in his palanquin, immediately inquired from those who were present with him, who is that? What is his name? Which Varna caste does he belong to? Where does he reside? His associates replied, he is a great scholar of the name Ramachandra. He is an excellent poet as well as a physician and resides in Kumaranagar. Hearing this, Srinivas Prabhu simply smiled. His associates replied, yeah, stand a bit. After a short time, the procession reached the house where much pomp and celebration took place. There was a wedding procession. Everyone was overjoyed to see the new bride, Ratnamala. Yeah. Ramachandra's mind, however, was still back at Jagigram, where he had seen that divine personage. With great difficulty, he somehow or other passed the day there, but with the fall of night, he, together with his wife, returned to I've spelled it so many different ways. I wonder which one is true. Jagigram, where he passed the night in the house of one Brahmin. With the approach of morning, he came to Srinivasacharya's house and fell down at the Acharya's feet to offer his prostrated obeisances. Srinivasacharya had similarly been continuously thinking of Ramachandra, even since he'd seen him the day before. Upon seeing Ramachandra again, he picked him up and embraced him with great ecstasy. Then he told him, birth after birth, you are my dearmost friend. In this way, the Lord caused my meeting with Narottam Das Thakur at Vrindavan. He also reunites me with another dear friend. That's you, Ramachandra. Ramachandra stayed with Srinivasacharya and studied the literatures of the six Goswamis under his tutorship. Srinivasacharya was extremely pleased to see his gentle and polite behavior and his deeply spiritual nature. And on the next auspicious day, he initiated Ramachandra with the Radha Krishna mantra. He was one of the 8 Kavirajas, famous poet disciples of Srinivas. After some time, Ramachandra returned to his house. When the Shaktas saw he had been initiated into the Vaishnava religion, they became very upset. Ramachandra, however, was undaunted. With tilak on his body in 12 places and a japamala in his hand, he sat in front of them and began to chant the holy names. One day, as Ramachandra was proceeding to his house after having taken his bath, his Shakti neighbors called him, Kaviraj, without worshipping Lord Shiva, how is it that you are going home? Your grandfather was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. Have you given up Lord Shiva's worship? So very interesting now, the dialogue that takes place between Ramachandra and the Shaktas. Lord Shiva and Brahma are incarnations of 2 of the material modes created by Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna is himself the source of all incarnation, and that's the verse Sri Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, by worshipping Lord Krishna, everyone's worship is performed. Just as by watering the root of a tree, all the leaves, branches become nourished. Prahlad, Dhruv, Vibhishan, and others were dear devotees of Sri Krishna. Therefore, Lord Shiva and Brahma were naturally favorably disposed to them, whereas Ravan, Kumbhakarna, Banasur, and other demons were only devotees of Shiva and not devotees of Krishna. Thus, their ultimate end would be simply destroyed. So this is a really good point. Worshippers of Krishna, they are all-rounders, whereas worshippers of Lord Shiva may just have a certain point of a view and not be able to respect Krishna, for example, or Ram or Vishnu. The Shastras say that Lord Brahma was able to create this world due to having successfully worshipped Shri Vishnu. Similarly, Lord Shiva became qualified to invoke auspiciousness in this world due to having received the foot wash water of Lord Vishnu, Ganga, on his head. Having heard these various statements from the Shastras, those scholars remained speechless and defeated. Although married, Ramachandra and his wife, Ratnamala, had no children, no material attachments, and they engaged in this loving service of the Lord. Ramachandra became very anxious to have darshan of Vrindavan and the Goswamis there. he set out for Sri Vrindavan Dham after seeking permission from the devotees. After passing through Gaya, Kashi, Prayag, finally arrived at Mathura. There he took bath at Vishramghat. After taking darshan of the Adikeshav temple, he started for Vrindavan. At this time, his guru, Srinivasacharya, was present in Vrindavan. Ramacandra offered his prostrated obeisances at the lotus feet of his guru and Sri Jiva Goswami and conveyed the good news of the devotees from Godadesh. Godadesh is West Bengal. As ordered by Jiva Goswami, Ramachandra took darshan of Sri Govind, Gopinath and Madan Mohan and Srila Sanatana Goswami's Samadhi. There he offered his respects to Gopal Bhatt, whom we'll talk about in a little while, Lokanath and Bhugarbha Goswami, who were very pleased with him and offered him their benedictions. Hearing some samples of his great poetic ability, everyone headed by Jiva Goswami decided to present him with the title Kaviraj. So this is in one of the scriptures. For this was what this stands for now, PR. After remaining in Goswami's association for some days, they finally instructed him to return to Godadesh. So he returned, visiting Sri Khanda, Jijigram, Kandahar, and Kalna on the way. Finally, he came to Mayapur, where he received the blessings of Ishan Thakur. Ishan Thakur was one of the servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very elderly gentleman. One time, some Smarta Brahmins made a conspiracy to defame the name of Narottam Das Thakur. They were very upset that though he was a Kayashta, that is a Kshatriya by his caste, he accepted those born in Brahmin families as his disciples.
Is it
Bhakti Ratnagar? Yeah, Bhakti Ratnagar, yeah, good. So this pastime, we've sort of gone through it a few times. Very interesting pastime where Ramacandra Kaviraja and Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, they pretended to be shopkeepers in the town of Narottam Das, and the king had sent, or they were heading there with the Brahmin community, the priests, to have a debate with Narottam Das Thakur. But Ramacandra Kaviraj and Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, they pretended to be shopkeepers. So when they stopped until we stopped there, they had a discussion with the shopkeepers, and it was in Sanskrit, and it was about the scriptures. And they were defeated by the two shopkeepers, and they thought, if these are what the shopkeepers are like, what's Narottam Das Thakur like? So they didn't. They surrendered to Narottam Das Thakur. In that way, the shopkeepers defeated, or Ramacandra Kaviraj defeated the Brahmins who had come to debate with Narottam Das Thakur. So we won't go into the details of all that. But he did a fantastic service. Many sinful atheists were delivered by Ramacandra Kaviraj. He was present at the Kheturi festival. This is the first Go Punim festival organized by Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, and Shyamananda. Narottam Das Thakur and Ramacandra lived together as best friends. Narottam Das Thakur wrote, Ramacandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das. This is from the bhajan, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Doya Kuramo. When Narottam Das Thakur is praying for the association, Ramacandra Kaviraj. Of course, the Diksha Guru of Ramacandra Kaviraj was Srinivasacharya, and one of the Shiksha Gurus is Narottam Das Thakur. So he came to Vrindavan, that's Ramacandra Kaviraj, a second time on the order of Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur. But this time he couldn't have darshan of the Goswamis, and they were all departed for Golok Vrindavan. So feeling separation from them, he was very distressed at heart. And unable to tolerate the pain, he joined them in their eternal pastimes in Vrindavan. He wrote several books, including Smarana Chamatkar, Smarana Darpana, Siddhanta Chandrika, and Srinivasacharya Jivana Charita. In Vrajalila, his name is Karuna Manjari. His disappearance on the third day of the dark fortnight in the month of Posh, which must be today. And his principal disciples, Harinamacharya. The deities worshipped by Ramacandra and Govinda Kaviraj. So they are brothers and they're great devotees. Have been brought from Chelia Budhargam to Bhagavan Gola, where they are at present being worshipped by the followers of Ramdas Babaji. So this is Srinivas, Narottam and Shyamananda. This is the place of Ramacandra Kaviraj. And these are his deities being worshipped. And this must be his Samadhi place. So, Ramacandra Kaviraj ki jai. Has anybody any comments, anything that like to share about Ramacandra Kaviraj? Otherwise, we can go to Gopal Bhatt Goswami. Okay, Ramacandra Kaviraj ki jai.